Simpson matter. Mr. Simpson is again present before the court with his counsel, Mr. Shapiro, Mr. Cochran, people represented by Mr. Kelberg, and Mr. Lynch, also present, Mr. Darden, and Ms. Lewis.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Your Honor, I'm here just to ask the court to set a date for a hearing on a discovery motion, which I filed this morning. I faxed it to the defense. I don't know if they've had an opportunity to read that fax. I've also left copies at counsel table for them. It's basically reiterating what we've gone through in the past. I also want to note, Your Honor, that we were promised a report from Dr. Gerdes by what Mr. Blazier called the end of next week, which would have been last Friday. We still have not received that. We've not received one single report of an expert of theirs. So we'd like this calendared as soon as possible to be heard. There are a couple of legal issues involved.
All right, we do have two matters already set on the 16th. And Mrs. Robertson, do you want to refresh my recollection why we have June 21st circled? Ah. Yeah. All right. How about the 23rd, 1:30?
May I check this? I've not seen the motions, but I believe with regard to Dr. Gerdes, I know that Mr. Blazier has requested that report. Mr. Blazier is back east, and I want to make sure that it's a date when he's back. And so he'll be handling that. I'm sure the report will be here. But as regards to the discovery motion, the 23rd should probably be good, I think, for us.
All right, 23rd at 1:30?
Your Honor, my only concern is that we are getting close to we're not only beyond 30 days before trial, but we're practically to the defense case. Its reciprocal discovery is becoming meaningless given our lack of receipt of discovery from the defense.
Well, counsel, here's the thing. You filed a motion. They're entitled to 10 days' notice.
I don't believe they are, Your Honor. This is not a pretrial motion. This is a motion to get them to comply with orders of this court.
You find me a court rule that says that any motion is exempt from the 10-day notice, and I'll reconsider that.
Well, it wasn't my understanding that it applies during trial, but I don't mean to be disrespectful to the court. It's just that we're very eager for this information.
Oh, I understand. And I've expressed my concern as well, as you know.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, 23rd at 1:30. It's just that we've got so many other things we would like to get done between now and then. And we already have two extensive motions set on the 16th. So,
Thank you, Your Honor.
okay. Mr. Kelberg, are we ready to resume?
Just one brief comment for the record, because I've already advised Mr. Shapiro and also Dr. Wolf, as it may affect her schedule. Over the weekend and in consultation with my colleagues, I have decided that we will not call Dr. Golden, which has the ancillary benefit of providing me with an exit from this courtroom. Not that I don't enjoy being down here with this court and counsel, but I have other matters that I can attend to, but it might get me out 2 or 3 days early. So I have made that determination. We didn't feel that the jury needed to have 2 or 3 days of wasted testimony in our judgment, because all of the evidence that he could provide is provided by the witness now testifying. So we want to get the case to the jury, and that's why we've made that decision. It's my decision ultimately, because I'm the lawyer presenting this evidence. So
All right.
responsibility is to flow. It flows onto my shoulders. And again, we have advised counsel.
All right, have you given Mr. Cochran and Mr. Shapiro any heads up as to who will be coming then after Dr. Lakshmanan?
Yes, my understanding is Mr. Boziak from the FBI concerning shoe print evidence would be our next witness, presented, I believe, by Mr. Goldberg.
Okay, and if
I'm sorry, good afternoon, Mr. Darden.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. If I can add this, Mr. Boziak may not be ready to go immediately after the coroner. In the event that that is the case, we will call the witnesses relative to the purchase of the gloves at Bloomingdale's, and that will consist of approximately 5 witnesses. Counsel has discovery, so they should be ready for that.
So either the gloves or the shoe prints?
Yes, with regard to those witnesses,
Well, excuse me, Mr. Cochran.
Sure.
While I'm still thinking about it.
Sure.
When will Mr. Boziak be available?
I'm not sure. That'll be Ms. Clark's witness. It's not just a matter of him being available, but being ready as well. We've changed the schedule, the witness schedule,
Apparently.
drastically.
Apparently. All right, so we may finish with the prosecution case this month.
We may.
All right. That would thrill me to death. Mr. Cochran.
thrill all of us, Your Honor. With regard to the witnesses that he's talking about with regard to Bloomingdale, I previously said to the prosecution that if we can arrange to meet with the lawyers for the defense meeting with the lawyer from the prosecution, perhaps we can save some time as we go over that. So I'll try to carve out some time with Mr. Darden with regard to each of these witnesses and see if there are certain things we can reach to.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. started, Mr. Kelberg, can I ask you to rescue your materials from the railing there, please?
Testimony of Dr. Golden, we would ask the court to request of Mr. Kelberg that we would like to subpoena Dr. Golden, ask his assistance in that regard, and have him here for the beginning of our case in July as our witness.
Your Honor.
Shouldn't be a problem.
Dr. Golden works every working day. He does not take sick days, as I understand it. His office is very close by. I would anticipate no difficulty. I don't know of any vacation schedule that he may have, but I would anticipate absolutely no difficulty.
All right, Mr. Kelberg, if you would, then, after our first break, why don't you talk to Dr. Lakshmanan and make sure that Mr. Golden's available first half of July.
Very well, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Sure. I'm sure we can do that informally. All right, Deputy Magnar, let's have the jurors, please.
Your Honor, just briefly,
I'm sorry.
This Friday, the two motions that are going to be heard, the first one concerns allegations with regard to jurors. What is the other one?
I also have a 1026 proceeding on another case,
Oh, I see. Thank you.
a restoration of sanity after a second-degree murder.
American All, I think,
Yes, yes. Let's. Joined by all the members of our jury panel. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Dr. Lakshmanan, would you resume the witness stand, please? However, briefly. Let the record reflect that Dr. Lakshmanan is again on the witness stand. Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Thank you for returning with us this afternoon. And Doctor, sir, you were reminded you were still under oath, and Mr. Kelberg, you may continue with your direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And to you, Doctor. Doctor, I want to do a little more follow-up regarding the two injuries that you talked about at the end of Friday's testimony, which are reflected or demonstrated in photographs G51, and one of which is better shown in a close-up in G53. And these are the injuries which Dr. Golden originally described in essence as one wound going in, where we have injury number 1 by your designation of G51, and exiting what you have as injury number 2, and also nicking the ear, which you've described, I believe, as injury number 3 of that photograph. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, Doctor, and again, the court was correct. I don't think you get to sit very long. If you could step to the board, perhaps bring the pointer that's behind you.
And Mr. Kelberg, we're
I'm
referring to
gonna
358.
Exhibit 358, yes, Your Honor.
All right.
Doctor, your opinion, as I believe you testified last week, was that these are separate sharp force injuries, injuries number 1 and number 2. Is that correct?
Yes.
And as I recall your testimony also, injury number 2 is described by you as entering in the area shown in the photograph, where Dr. Golden describes it in essence as exiting. Is that correct?
Yes.
What leads you to form the opinion that that is where the knife entered rather than the knife exiting?
That is because of the appearance of both the wounds. If you had a knife which entered here in the left side of the neck and came out here in this point behind the ear, when this ripping of the skin is caused, you would expect more cutting of the skin in this part, that is the outer part of this wound, which really doesn't show any cut in the depths of the wound. It only shows mostly like a bridging. The cut is more on the surface. And as I already mentioned, this is a complex wound caused by different penetrations on a pre-existing cut, or could have been a separate penetration without a pre-existing cut. But in my opinion, this is a separate wound, this is a separate wound. This wound to the left ear could be related to this wound, as I explained, I think 2 days ago. Also the direction are different, which supports my opinion.
For the record, Your Honor, when the witness was initially talking about the appearance of the surface cutting, he was referring to injury number 1 of G51, and when he was referring to the direction, he was referring initially to injury number 2 and then back to injury number 1. May the record so reflect.
Yes, thank you.
Now, Doctor, in your review of the evidence in this case, did you also review testimony given by Dr. Golden before the Los Angeles County Grand Jury on June 20th of 1994?
Yes, I did.
And inviting counsel, if they're so inclined, to page 114 of the grand jury transcript, and in particular beginning line 1 of that page and continuing on to page 115 and on to page 116. Doctor, did you review this testimony from Dr. Golden?
Yes, I did.
Question. I'm focusing now on the injury which appears to be a rather large hole in the left side of the neck. And you interpreted that, doctor, to refer to what is described as injury number 1. Is that correct, of G51?
Yes.
And the answer is yes. Question. Approximately how large was that particular wound? Answer. That wound was 3 inches in length. It was a gaping, as you can see, wound. And after putting it together, it was 3 inches in length, tapering if you taper it here, tapering where I indicated towards the back of the neck, where it involves just the skin. Question, would you describe that wound as a cutting wound or stabbing wound or both? Answer, well, it appears to be a combination of stabbing and cutting wounds. Question, now it appears to be a deep wound, and I can see why you call that a stabbing wound. Can you tell us why it is that you also describe that as a cutting wound? Answer, well, first of all, it's very wide, so it's compatible with a narrower blade that is also cutting the skin. Also, it appears to taper into that area, which indicates that there may have been a slicing component also. It is a stab wound. It goes into the neck and connects with another wound behind the left ear, which is at a distance of approximately 4 inches from that first wound. Doctor, you interpret that last reference to be to what's described as injury number 2?
That's correct.
And incidentally, these questions you read were from a Deputy District Attorney by the name of Mr. Conn, C-O-N-N.
Yes.
Continuing on the answer, so it appears that it's at least 4 inches deep. Question, so what you are saying is that this wound going into the neck is connected to this wound coming out on the left side, on the back side of the left ear? Answer, yes. Of course, I can't unequivocally say which one came first. It also appears that the one on the lower neck came first, but it's also possible that it came from downward and came out, depending on how the neck was held. But they do connect. Question, and there also appears to be in this photograph an injury to the ear where the ear is cut. And did you interpret that, doctor, to refer to this injury? I believe you described it as injury number 3 of photograph G51?
I think it's injury number 4.
Or number 4?
Number 4, I think.
Injury number 4?
Yes.
And continuing on in the question, can you determine at all whether that injury to the ear was part of one continuous movement from the neck into the back of the ear and then up to the ear? Answer, yes. I made an assumption by placing a rod or probe along the entire length there. They all connected up. So it's possible that one stabbing motion caused all 3 of those, which would make it about a 6-inch long wound. In other words, from here, if I include this earlobe cut, correction, not earlobe, but the ear cut, if the ear cut and this are all connected, there is approximately a 6-inch long stabbing wound. And that is the completion, actually, of the testimony regarding the relationship, if any, between these. Doctor, in your opinion, is Dr. Golden's testimony in that area an erroneous opinion?
Yes.
For the same reasons that you described with respect to how the addendum came to reflect a change to 2 separate wounds?
Yes.
Is this a mistake, doctor, that you consider significant to you in evaluating the big-ticket questions?
No.
For the same reasons as you explained last Friday on the same area?
Yes.
Now, doctor, I don't believe we finished evaluating any injuries of G51 beyond injuries 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you take us through what, if any, additional injuries you see in that photograph, and then we'll go through a description of each and any additional information, and then we'll go to the protocols and so forth on those.
Yes. There is also a cut to the left earlobe. There is a cut to the left ear here. There's a cut abrasion to the part of the ear behind the ear canal. There's a triangular abrasion to the left side of the jaw. There's another linear interrupted cut to the left angle of the jaw here. And there are some smaller abrasions to the left side of the chin, which would complete all the injuries in this photograph.
Have you, again, arbitrarily numbered these additional injuries that you've just described as numbers 5 through whatever the last number would be?
Yes, up to 12. I think, just a minute. I numbered them up to 12.
All right, doctor, let's go individually if we could. Injury number 5 in photograph G51 is which injury?
That is the one to the earlobe.
And what kind of injury is that, doctor?
That's a cut to the earlobe.
And in your evaluation, were you able to determine the instrument or nature of how that cut was inflicted?
It's a sharp force injury.
And doctor, from what you saw, were you able to say whether or not it was only from a single edge knife or could have been from either a single edge or double edge?
It could have been from either.
What told you that that was the case?
Because it's just a cut, and as I mentioned earlier, when we discuss in general about sharp force injuries, you cannot tell the difference when you just have a cut.
From your observation of it and any review of Dr. Golden's protocol information, how deep was that cut?
It's a cut to the earlobe, so it's just a cut. It's not, depth has not been described.
And doctor, in that area, how deep is the earlobe?
It's just less than a quarter inch.
Doctor, are you able to determine whether that injury was received before death, at or around the time of death, or after death?
Before that.
What leads you to that
The
conclusion?
appearance
What about the appearance?
and the bleeding, which you can see in some of the scene photographs also.
Doctor, can you keep your voice up?
The crime scene photographs also, you can see the wound.
You have looked at all of the crime scene
Yes.
photographs concerning the bodies as found?
Yes,
And in those, you saw what that was of significance to you on this issue of whether or not that was received before death?
because you have evidence of blood over the area and also the reddish appearance, which is antemortem.
Doctor, is there anything about the position of that cut that gives you any information regarding the relative positions of Mr. Goldman and the perpetrator?
No,
Is there anything else as far as a description of that particular cut goes?
nothing else.
Doctor, did Dr. Golden address that injury number 5 in the autopsy protocol?
Yes, he did.
Did he diagram it in any of the available forms?
He did.
Was it addressed in any of the addendum?
No,
In your opinion, was there any reason to?
no,
Did he accurately describe and diagram it?
yes,
Anything else before we move to injury number 6?
nothing else.
Injury number 6 then is which one, doctor?
Injury number 6 is the cut to the left ear here.
All right. If I could just duck under you for 1 second, doctor. Would you point again? Now, doctor, this is a different cut than the cut you previously referred to as injury number 4. Is that correct?
Yes, injury number 4 is to the edge of the ear. This cut is to the side of the ear, behind the ear canal there.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that this new injury number 6 is slightly to the left and below what was previously described as injury number 4?
Yes.
Now, doctor, again, are you able to determine when, in relationship to the time of death, that injury was received?
That also occurred before death.
For the same reasons you just described, pardon me, for injury number 6?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, injury number 5?
yes, it's the appearance and the nature.
Doctor, is that a sharp force injury?
Yes,
Are you able to differentiate between a single edge or a double edge knife for that particular sharp force injury?
no, I'm not able to,
Why not?
because it's only a cut and the same reasons I gave earlier. When you just have an incised wound, you cannot differentiate between a single edge or a double edge.
In your opinion, are both injuries 5 and 6, however, injuries which could have been inflicted with that same single-edged knife that you said approximately would have to have a 6-inch long blade?
Yes,
Doctor, are you able to offer information from your review of that injury and any other material concerning the relative positions of Mr. Goldman and the perpetrator at the time that sharp force injury was received?
No, I'm not able to.
Is this injury number 6 addressed by Dr. Golden in the autopsy protocol?
He has addressed it in the autopsy protocol, but not
Keep- keep your voice
He
up.
has addressed it.
And I think I heard you say he has not diagrammed it in any of the available diagram forms?
Yes,
Is his failure to diagram injury number 6 a mistake in your judgment?
yes,
Does that mistake have any significance to you in evaluating things like cause of death?
no,
Or whether one knife could have caused all of the sharp force injuries that Mr. Goldman and Ms. Brown Simpson received?
no,
Or the manner of death?
no,
Or any of the other big ticket questions?
no.
Why not, doctor?
Because as I mentioned earlier, there's only a cut, and it could have been caused by a single edge or a double edge, and really doesn't have any significant impact on all the items we just discussed.
Doctor,
It's not a fatal wound.
and I assume the same would apply to injury number 5, that's not a fatal wound either?
That's correct.
Doctor, is this addressed at all by Dr. Golden in his addendum?
It was in its original protocol, so it is not addressed in that addendum.
And in your opinion, was there any reason he needed to?
Not necessary.
Anything else about injury number 6, doctor?
Nothing else.
How about injury number 7 then?
Injury number 7 is a linear abrasion. Measurement 3/8 of an inch in length, and it's behind the left ear canal.
All right, let me slide over one more time just briefly. Would you point that out again for us? Your Honor, where the witness has pointed this injury number 7, the abrasion, is to the left and below what has been described as injury number 6, the cut to the ear.
Yes.
Doctor, how can you tell that's an abrasion?
Because of the appearance and its characteristics.
What is it about the appearance and characteristics that lead you to that conclusion?
Because it looks like a linear scrape, it's reddish brown in color.
Now, do you have an opinion as to what source or sources could have inflicted that linear abrasion?
One source could have been the dull edge of the knife, could have caused the same wound, the same stroke which caused this cut could have just scraped the superficial part of the skin here.
I'm sorry, the same,
Cut which caused the injury number 6 could also cause this cut abrasion.
I'm sorry, the same instrument you mean?
Yes, the same instrument.
And which you indicated, I believe, using the term dull,
Yes,
dull edge of a blade?
yes,
If it's a dull edge of a blade, what kind of knife must that be?
single edge.
And how, in your opinion, could that same knife have created that abrasion as it created the cut that is injury number 6?
Because you could have had the cut, and then the knife movement could have also caused the cut abrasion.
How does the knife movement create that?
Because if it's turned or twisted, you could have this abrasion caused.
Doctor, again, is that an antemortem, that is before death abrasion?
Yes,
How are you able to tell that?
the appearance, the reddish brown color.
Does this have any significant impact on cause of death
No,
or any of the other issues?
no,
Did Dr. Golden address this in his original protocol?
yes it did.
Did he diagram this?
No,
Is that a mistake?
yes,
Is it significant to you on these big ticket issues?
no,
For the same reasons that you just expressed for the failure to diagram injury number 6?
yes,
Anything else about that particular one, doctor?
nothing else.
I'm sorry, did Dr. Golden address it at all in his addendum?
No.
How about number 8 then, doctor?
Number 8, is the triangular abrasion in the left side of the jaw.
Doctor, I'm sorry, would you point to it one more time, please? Your Honor, may the record reflect that the doctor has pointed to something which appears to be almost in the immediate center of the photograph and does appear to be triangularly shaped with the point of the triangle facing the top of the photograph.
Yes.
Doctor, what kind of injury is that, in your opinion?
It's a triangular shaped abrasion, which is a blunt force type injury.
How were you able to make that determination?
because of the appearance of the injury itself.
What is it about the appearance?
It's triangular in shape, and it's not a cut. It looks more like an abrasion.
Is this an injury that you inspect with your magnifying glass to make these kinds of determinations as to is it an abrasion versus a cut or laceration?
That is correct. Because with the magnifying glass, you'll be able to see if it's due to a sharp force injury. You'll see the splitting of the skin.
And did you in fact do that with this particular injury?
Yes, I did.
Did you see that splitting of the skin associated with the sharp force injury?
No.
Are you able to determine when in relationship to death that injury was received?
It's an antemortem before death.
How are you able to tell?
The same reasons I gave earlier, the appearance and the nature of the wound.
Does this play any significant impact on cause of death
No,
or any of the other big ticket issues
no,
for the same reasons as you've expressed?
yes,
Does Dr. Golden address this in the original protocol?
no.
Does he diagram it anywhere in the available diagrams?
No,
Does he address it in the addendum?
yes, he does.
Doctor, would you consider it mistakes on the part of Dr. Golden not to have described it initially and not to have diagrammed it initially?
Yes,
Are those mistakes significant to you on these big ticket questions?
No.
For the same reasons?
yes.
Doctor, is there anything else about that oh, I know, I wanted to ask you, do you have any opinion from your review of the material as to what source or sources could have caused that particular triangular shaped abrasion?
It's a blunt, non-specific blunt force trauma. As I told you earlier, if you look at the scene, there are some branches which are cut plant branches. Some of them could have caused this kind of injury.
I think we're going to look at that again when we look in more detail at G55. Is that correct, Doctor?
Yes.
Anything else then about that injury number 8, I believe?
No.
What's injury number 9 then, Doctor?
Injury number 9 is interrupted 3-inch cut abrasion.
I'm sorry.
Injury number 9 is a interrupted 3-inch long cut abrasion.
What do you mean by interrupted?
Interrupted means there are areas of skin which are intact in the line of path of injury.
Your Honor, where the witness has been pointing, may the record reflect
There's intact skin in between the length of the injury.
May the record reflect that the injury described as injury number 9 by the doctor, this is injury number 9, correct, Doctor?
Yes.
Appears to run at a 45-degree angle and appears to begin approximately halfway between the bottom of the ear and the left jaw line and runs diagonally in a downward direction toward the back of the neck.
Yes.
And that when the doctor was talking about interrupted, in looking at the photograph, there appears to be a reddishness part to the line, and then it becomes pale for a short distance, and then it becomes reddish again, and then pale again, reddish again, pale, and slightly reddish as it tails off in the photograph in the lower right-hand side.
Yes, that appears to accurately depict that wound.
Doctor, in talking about abrasions, I'm not sure you discussed what a cut abrasion is. You talked about other kinds.
A cut abrasion is where a dull edge of a knife can cause a wound on the skin surface. It not necessarily, it mainly scrapes the surface of this skin, but the margins will be sharp because it's caused by a sharp instrument's dull edge. And that's a little different from another linear abrasion where you do not necessarily have the clean-cut appearance to the margins, and if you see it in a magnifying glass, you can tell the difference.
Doctor, in talking about a dull edge, are you talking about a specific type of knife that creates that kind of interrupted abrasion, cut abrasion?
A single-edge knife could do that with the dull tip doing this kind of injury.
Would you expect a double-edged knife to be able to give that kind of impression?
It could, but the knife has to be drawn perpendicular to the cutting edges. The tip has to be drawn across the skin surface, but I would favor the former to the latter.
Why is that?
For the same reason I mentioned earlier, because this would have a more linear appearance than the other one. but it's difficult to differentiate.
Now, doctor, is this also an injury that's received before death?
Yes,
How are you able to tell that?
because of the appearance and the color.
Doctor, does this play any significant role in cause of death
No,
or any of the other big-ticket issues?
no,
Did Dr. Golden address this in his protocol?
yes, he did.
Did he diagram it in any available form?
Yes, he did.
Is it addressed at all in an addendum?
No,
In your judgment, any reason that he needed to?
not necessary.
Are you able to tell in any way from what you see and have reviewed the relative positions of Mr. Goldman and the perpetrator to result in this particular injury number 9?
I've considered that, but you cannot tell.
Why can you not tell?
Because it's an injury which is in an area which could have been, either the perpetrator could have been the front or the back.
The perpetrator could have been either to the front of Mr. Goldman or to the back
Back on the side,
of Mr. Goldman
yes,
when this injury was received or inflicted.
yes,
Anything else about that injury, doctor?
nothing else.
How about injury number 10?
Injury number 10 is a faint abrasion, which you can see running from the below the left ear downwards here.
And doctor, is that seen also, we can move up to G53, is that seen in that photograph as well?
Yes, it's running parallel to injury number 2, I think, yes.
Your Honor, for the record, may the record reflect that the injury number 10, this linear abrasion pointed out by the doctor in both photographs, G51 and G53, appears to be, as you look at the photograph, to the left of injury number 2 in G51, running in the same direction as G51's injury number 2, and terminating short of where injury number 2 in G51 terminates.
Yes.
Doctor, how are you able to tell that's an abrasion?
The appearance, and as I told you, I examined all these injuries with the magnifying glass also in the photographs.
Did you measure from the life-size 1-to-1 photographs to determine the approximate length of that abrasion?
Yes, it is 1.5 inches.
Doctor, does this abrasion play any significant role in cause of death
No,
or in any of the big-ticket questions?
no.
Do you have an opinion as to what cause or causes could have inflicted that?
It's a non-specific blunt force linear injury, and as I told you, there are some branches and plant stalks which could have resulted in that kind of injury.
Doctor, did Dr. Golden address this in his original protocol?
He did not address this per se in his protocol. He described a cut there.
Doctor, did he diagram this abrasion in his original diagram forms?
Not as an abrasion.
Did he address this abrasion in his addendum?
No.
I think this might be an opportunity if Mr. Lynch could help me out to put up a diagram. Doctor, did you find in your review of the protocol and a diagram that Dr. Golden had some injury associated with this same general area as injury number 10, but which in your opinion is not the same injury that you've just described and which you see in those photographs?
That is correct.
Let me take this down for just a second. Can you refer me, doctor, to which diagram?
I think it's in the addendum description, page 4. And if you go to the,
Keep your voice up, doctor.
if you go to the 22 diagrams,
You want the 22 diagram?
yes.
All right, let's put that up first. Which one of the 22s, doctor?
The next 22.2, I think, if I remember right. No, 22.3. Yeah, that's the one, I think. 22.2. Here it is.
Keep your voice up, doctor.
22.2.
Let me get out of the way. First of all, what is it that you see on diagram 22, Roman numeral 2, that you believe is associated with the same general area as that injury number 10?
This 1 1/8 inch cut. It says incised wound superficial, 1 1/8 inch long behind the left ear.
Doctor, where you have indicated with your marker, I'm going to circle that. And I'll write G-51, and I'm also going to write G-53, and I'll put in quotation marks, cut. Doctor, if Dr. Golden described this as a cut, in your opinion, he has inaccurately assessed what the injury that you see as an abrasion actually is. Is that correct?
Yes, and also, this is a diagrammatic representation. All I could see in that area was this linear abrasion I just described. I didn't see any cut.
In your opinion, is it a mistake to opine that that is a cut rather than an abrasion?
Yes.
Is it significant, however, as a mistake on your ability to determine any of these big-ticket questions?
No.
Why not?
For the same reasons I alluded to earlier, because it's only a superficial injury. It didn't have anything to do with the cause of death or my ability to characterize a wound, or my ability to determine whether it's a single edge or a double edge, my ability to interpret fatality from an injury, the bleeding patterns, because it's a superficial injury. So really didn't have an impact as far as the big ticket items we have been discussing on every other injury so far.
The measurement that is provided there of 1 1/8 inch is different than your measurement of 1 1/2 inch?
That's correct, but also my orientation is a little different because the abrasion I diagrammed is, not diagrammed, I perceived on the photograph is parallel to the injury. Here, this looks as though it's running from the attachment of the earlobe backwards into the skin, back of the neck.
Doctor, let me put up again the photograph. Let me actually hold it down a bit so that we can see the orientation as seen in the photograph. And I would ask you, if you can please, to diagram on Form 22. Let me give you the blue marker. Can you diagram in there the orientation you believe accurately reflects the orientation of the abrasion itself?
It's just an approximation.
Your Honor, for the record, Dr. Lakshmanan has made 3 dashed lines within that area of red that I just circled in the upper right quadrant diagram for Form 22. And what I'm going to do is draw with a blue line out to the side and write G-51, G-53, injury, INJ, number 10.
Yes.
Now, Doctor, I think you mentioned Dr. Golden had some information in the original protocol referring to this cut. Is that correct?
Yes. And
Where within the original protocol?
it's on page 4. Here, lower paragraph. Also in the left post-auricular region, transversely oriented, extending from the auricular attachment laterally to the scalp is a 1 1/8 inch linear superficial incised wound. It's last 4 lines of paragraph 3.
And Your Honor, where Dr. Lakshmanan has just pointed that out and read it, I'll outline that in blue on page 4 of the protocol, which is our board 0G. And I apologize, I did not put up, it was 4G was the board for the Form 22.
All right, thank you.
And I'll write out at the side G-51, G-53, and I'll write the word cut, C-U-T, in quotation marks. Now, Doctor, was there any description or additional information provided by Dr. Golden in the addendum referring to this cut versus the abrasion injury number 10?
No.
Let me put up the photo one more time, because I want to focus this time on G53. And invite your attention, if I could, to where I'm pointing now is this same abrasion injury number 10. Is that correct?
Yes.
And there appears to be some discoloration right at the upper end of that injury that is not seen in the angle of the photograph G51. Do you see that, Doctor?
Yes.
Does that observation have any significance to you?
It's just a blood clot there behind the ear which has not been washed off, and that's what this discoloration is, a blood clot remaining there in spite of all the washing and cleaning before the photography.
Does that blood clot have any significance to you in being able to form an opinion as to whether what you describe as an abrasion injury number 10 was in fact a cut as Dr. Golden described it?
There's no cut there, and this blood clot is probably related to the cut in the earlobe.
The cut in the earlobe which you have previously described?
Yes, and Dr. Golden has described also.
Doctor, do you consider it then a mistake for Dr. Golden, again, to have addressed in his protocol this particular item as a cut?
Yes, because I don't see it in the photographs.
Is the area that Dr. Golden describes as being the area where the cut is observed visible in both photographs G53 and G51?
Yes. And
Is there anything else about this cut versus the abrasion?
no.
Doctor, what is injury number 11 then?
Injury number 11 is superficial irregular abrasions. Actually 11 and 12 below injury number 8 on the inferior chin here. These abrasions here and here. These are 11 and 12 respectively. You have some faint abrasions which are non-specific.
I'm sorry, Doctor, which is 11 and which is 12?
Left chin and below injury number 8.
Is 11 the one that is in the lower left-hand corner of the photograph?
Yes.
And, Your Honor, for the record, in the lower left-hand corner where the chin is, where the doctor was pointing?
Yes.
And 12 is an area that's a bit below and a little to the right of the triangular-shaped abrasion. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, tell us about these two particular
These
findings.
are non-specific superficial abrasions and could be related to the same type of plant material contact I discussed earlier with regarding the linear abrasions.
Doctor, are you able to determine again whether these are inflicted or received before death?
They appear to be antemortem.
Again, why?
Same reasons, the appearance, the discoloration.
Do they play any role in cause of death
No,
or any of the other big-ticket issues?
no,
Did Dr. Golden address these in the protocol?
no,
Did he diagram them anywhere?
no,
Did he address them in the addendum?
no.
All mistakes in your judgment?
Yes,
Significant singularly or collectively?
no.
Why not?
Because of the same reasons I gave earlier. These are very superficial injuries. They have no significance as to the cause of death. They do not interfere with my able to discuss the nature of the sharp force injuries or the bleeding patterns or any of the other issues I've discussed before previously.
Doctor, are there any other injuries that are in photograph G53 that we have not discussed?
No, I think we have discussed all the injuries in G51 and G53.
Before, and I included, I'm sorry, by omission, but I did intend to include a G51. Before we put up the protocols and so forth to show which are the diagrammed injuries and described injuries, I wanted to come back just briefly to one of the injuries you described in G37 as, I believe, a cut below injury number 2, the superficial
No,
inside.
I said it's an abrasion, yeah.
Abrasion, I'm sorry. In talking with you this afternoon, you brought some additional information to my attention. I think you said last week that it could be caused by a fingernail.
Yes.
Is there additional source or sources that you believe it would be important to know?
If it is a rough glove, the glove also could do the same type of abrasion.
A rough glove?
Yes. It's a non-specific injury. I just gave one example the other day and I gave another example today.
How is that done by a rough glove?
The same kind of movement which I discussed that day, a gloved finger also can cause the same type of abrasion when these threatening cuts were made.
Anything else you wanted to add about that particular one, Doctor?
Nothing.
Doctor, then let's go to the protocols and the addendums and the diagrams for the other injuries of G51 that we have not discussed. Why don't we start? We had done through injury 4, I believe you said. So should we start with injury number 5? I think you said that that was addressed.
Yes, injury number 5 is on the protocol and it's on page 4 here. It's the linear triangular size wound in the inferior portion of the left earlobe.
Okay, and just Will you point that out real quickly for us?
It's there, and here in G53, it's on the left earlobe here. In G51, you can see it in the left earlobe here. And this is a description here in the protocol.
Let me outline that in red on page 4 of board 0G, and that's going to be G-51 INJ number 5. Where is it diagrammed, if at all, Doctor?
It's diagrammed in 22-2.
If I could ask Mr. Lynch to just temporarily take care of that board. You say 22-2, which we have up, our 4G board.
Yes.
And what has Dr. Golden written, if anything?
Yes,
regarding-
diagrammed it accurately in the left earlobe, ½ inch in size wound, and you can see it here.
Does this writing that appears above what appears to be a horizontal line have anything to do with that particular injury, number 5?
It's a magnified demonstration of the same injury to show that it's a cut to the earlobe.
Where the doctor has indicated on the form in the lower right-hand quadrant, I'll circle it in red, and I'll write G-51 INJ number 5. Is that accurate, Doctor?
Yes,
Does that take care of all of the entries regarding injury number 5?
yes,
Nothing in the addendum, correct?
that's correct.
Injury number 6.
Injury number 6 is page 7, number 6.
Let me ask you, is it diagrammed somewhere?
Which one? Injury number 6? No.
Okay. And let's take this one down and put our protocol back up. And I'm sorry, Doctor, the page number of the protocol?
Page 7, number 6. The whole paragraph refers to injury number 6 and 7.
All right, let's separate, if we could, first of all, point out for us, if you would, which is injury number 6?
Injury number 6 is the cut to the left ear behind the ear canal. You can see it also in G53 and in G51. The linear abrasion is behind the ear canal in G53. You can also see it in G51.
And that would be injury number 7, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, let's break this down then. Which part is injury number 6 as described?
The first 2 lines.
Ending with the word PINA?
Yes.
Let me outline that in red on page 7 of this board. Now write G51 INJ number 6. And then the next sentence refers to, in the same subgroup, refers to injury number 7?
Yes.
I'll outline that in blue. And right on the right-hand side, G-51 INJ number 7. Any other place in the protocol for either of those two?
No.
You said there was no diagram done of number 6, is that correct?
That's correct.
Any diagramming done of number 7?
No.
Any aspect of the addendum addressing either one?
No.
How about number 8, injury number 8?
Injury number 8 is in the addendum description.
Injury number 8 again is which one, doctor?
Injury number 8 is the triangular abrasion to the angle of the jaw, which is this one here, which I described earlier, and it's also seen in G51 and 53.
All right, doctor, where in the protocol?
It's not in the protocol, it's not in the diagram, but it's on the addendum, page 4. Number 9.
Number 9?
No, not number 9, number 8. Just a minute. Here, number 10.
On the left side of the jaw, at the angle of the mandible, there is a triangular shaped brown abrasion measuring maximally 1/4 inch.
Yes.
I'll outline that from our board number 10G, Your Honor.
Yes, thank
And
you.
I'll write at the side G-51 INJ number 7, doctor?
Number 8.
Number 8, I'm sorry. Any other entry in the addendum?
No.
How about injury number 9?
It's diagrammed.
Is it addressed in the protocol?
Yes.
Where?
I'm sorry, not in the protocol, it's in the diagram and in the addendum.
Let's stay with the addendum since we have it up here. Where in the addendum?
It's in the page 4, number 10.
I think number 10 we just
I'm
outlined.
sorry, number 9.
Okay, first of all, let's refresh our recollection. Which is injury number 9?
The linear cut abrasion, which I described earlier, just above the triangular abrasion in G51 and in 53.
And Your Honor, on that same page then, I'll outline it in blue. And on the left side, I'll write G-51, INJ, number 9. Correct, Doctor?
Yes,
All right, now where is it diagrammed?
it's in 22 dash number 1. You can see it here, right here, between the lower left neck sharp force injury and the left retroauricular sharp force injury. It's a linear cut abrasion.
And Doctor, is there any writing that has been added by Dr. Golden?
Yes, it says here, 3.5 inch interrupted incised wound superficial, arrow pointing to that, so that would be injury number 9.
Where the doctor has just pointed, Your Honor, I will circle that area in the lower right-hand quadrant diagram of 22-1. I'll write G-51, INJ, number 10, Doctor?
Yes. No, number 9.
Number 9, I'm sorry. All right, number 9. While we're here, Doctor, I don't think we actually outlined injury number 2. That is that one that we talked about as to whether it was part of the continuation of the injury number 3 of G37, injury number 1 of G51, or whether, as you opined, it was a separate wound. Is that in this area here, in the lower
Yes,
right
you can
quadrant?
see it here. It says 2 inch incised wound superficial right here. And this is the part of injury number 2, which we discussed earlier under the photograph description.
Doctor, there appears to be some writing above what you just read. Does that refer to this particular injury as well?
Yes, it says border is wavy, and that's what is being described.
Does any of the writing above that refer to that injury?
It says, actually, this part of the 6 inches is the location of this incised wound, actually, of injury number 3, and the direction is also reflects to the injury number 1, actually. So,
I'm sorry, Doctor. If you'll keep your voice up, let's break this down. This 6 inches refers to what?
it refers to, that is below the ear area here, and refers to this particular injury number 1 of G50.
51, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. So if we'll circle that as well and just include it with a line down to that same area that's already labeled. It's also injury number 3 of G37, correct,
Yes.
Doctor?
Yes.
And I'll write G-51, injury number 1, INJ number 1. Okay, what about the rest of this? What refers to what?
The front to back would refer to the same injury.
All right, let me circle that and just have that connect up with the 6-inch circle entry. Next.
Yeah. And this border wavy, all this belongs to the injury behind the ear, all of this.
What about this writing above the border wavy?
Border wavy belongs to that injury also. That is the front margin.
I understand that, Doctor. I'm talking about the writing that appears above border
That is
wavy.
difficult for me to read.
Okay. Let me circle that if I could, Your Honor, then. And I'll circle that injury all in blue in the same form, lower right-hand quadrant diagram, and I'll write G-51 INJ number 2. Thank you. All right, Doctor. Anything more on the diagramming of injury number 9?
No.
And then you said it's found in the addendum?
Yes, we already
We've
discussed that.
taken care of that?
Yes,
So we're done with injury number 9.
yes.
All right, how about injury number 10?
Injury number 10 is not described or diagrammed.
How about in the addendum?
No,
So there's nothing referring to injury number 10?
no,
How about, and number 11 and 12, what did you say?
not diagrammed, not described, so,
And not in the addendum?
no,
Are we done then with that photograph?
yes.
Okay. Doctor, is there anything else regarding G53 that we have not discussed with respect to its appearance in G51?
No, except that for the wound behind the ear, there's a 7-inch component which is described in the addendum and which is seen in the photograph, which would be the penetrating part of the stab wound as I discussed.
When you say a 7/8-inch component,
Yes, that is the penetrating area of the stab wound behind the left ear.
and that is found in the addendum?
Yes,
In an area, let me just see if we can cover that. What page, Doctor?
that'll be in page 2, number 4. See here, it's covered in the addendum, but not in the original protocol.
And the component, is that of significance to you in deciding that that's an entry area for a second sharp force injury rather than an exit associated with injury number 1?
That is correct, and also I already given you the other reasons already.
Anything else about that?
No.
All right, let's get that down. One last thing comes to my mind, Doctor, regarding injuries numbers 1 and 2 as seen in photograph G37. And again, as part of your review of the grand jury testimony by Dr. Golden, did you find Dr. Golden made reference to those 2 particular superficial incised wounds?
Yes.
If I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Certainly.
And inviting counsel to page 120 of the grand jury testimony, and beginning questioning by Mr. Khan of the District Attorney's Office on line 8 through line 20 with the answer. Doctor, did you review this testimony? Question. Now, the wounds that we looked at so far, which are people 6, 7, and 8, the injuries to the neck here, can you tell us anything about the time that those wounds may have been inflicted? Answer. Well, the 2 deep wounds on each side of the neck occurred before death. There is extensive bruising along or in the tissues. The 2 wounds across the larynx, those superficial ones, don't have as much bleeding. Let me stop at this point, Doctor. Did you interpret that testimony to refer to injuries numbers 1 and 2, that is, the 2 wounds across the larynx?
Yes.
Continuing, as I said, the 2 wounds across the larynx, those superficial ones don't have as much bleeding. I thought that it's possible that they occurred on or about the time of death. In other words, when blood pressure had dropped considerably. In other words, maybe later on in the or during the assault or the sequence. Doctor, in your opinion, is Dr. Golden's opinion one which is medically sound concerning those 2 superficial incised wounds?
No.
Why not?
My opinion is that they occurred when he had blood pressure, because 1, there is dermal hemorrhage described by Dr. Golden in the report itself. Number 2, when I reviewed the crime scene photographs, we have definite evidence of bleeding in those wounds.
What is the presence of dermal bleeding of significance to you for in deciding when, in relationship to the time of death, those two control superficial incised wounds were received?
That would indicate that Mr. Goldman had blood pressure when those wounds were inflicted, and that would, because to have bleeding in the dermis, you need to have blood pressure.
Doctor, in
Excuse me,
describing...
Mr. Kelberg, you were referring to G37, the incised wound?
Yes, G37 injuries number 1 and 2, thank you,
Right.
Your Honor. Doctor, in forming your opinion that those two superficial incised wounds represented control type of injuries, I think you talked about threatening, as the perpetrator is threatening or taunting, I believe may have been the word you used.
That is correct.
In your opinion, did that indicate that those were, if not the first two, very close to the first two injuries received by Mr. Goldman?
That is correct.
Why?
Because they are control cuts. As I told you, they run parallel. They are railroad track-like. And I also pointed out to you the cut above the wound, which would favor that they occurred earlier when the victim was in close proximity and held immobilized by the suspect.
Is there anything else you wish to add to your assessment of Dr. Goldman's conclusion regarding those two superficial incised wounds?
Nothing else, because the dermal hemorrhage has been described in the report. The crime scene photographs indicate they are antemortem when they happen during life.
Since you've mentioned again the dermal hemorrhage, can you refer me by page?
They are in page 5, number 3 and 4. Number 4, it says there's a small amount of dermal hemorrhage. And number 3, it says small amount of cutaneous hemorrhage is evident.
Where the witness has indicated, Your Honor, on our board 0G, page 5 of the protocol, I'll
Yes.
underline in subparts 3 and 4. Anything further on that issue, Doctor?
No,
Does Dr. Golden's opinion, which you describe as not medically supported, constitute a mistake in your judgment?
well, it's an opinion.
Is it a mistaken opinion?
In my opinion, yes.
Does it have any significance to you in forming any of your own opinions on these issues?
Yes, the presence of hemorrhage indicates it's antemortem and would go along with my opinion that they were probably occurred earlier in the struggle and they were threatening wounds.
Is the fact that, in your opinion, his opinion is a mistake, does the mistake aspect have any significance to you?
No,
You are able to form your own opinions regarding these matters in spite of that?
yes. And as I told you, the crime scene photographs do show bleeding in the wounds.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Certainly.
Doctor, can we move back now? I think we are, we still have some injuries, G55, G40, and G50 to describe. Is that correct?
Yes.
Could we start with photograph G55? And I'm going to save for a later time a discussion of the head area. But at this point, I want to focus, if we could please, on what appears to be some kind of discoloration area that is to the right of that major sharp force injury you described last week that is also seen in G40.
It's a 5/8 inch stab wound, and that is located in the right side of the neck. And that is the main description of that injury.
Doctor, is this the same sharp force injury that we see in the lower right-hand corner of the cropped photo G50 up here in the corner?
Yes, here this is a more closer up photograph of the same injury, you can see the ends of the wound better defined. You can tell whether it's a sharp end or a blunt end. You can see that the front of the wound is sharp and the back of the wound is slightly forked, and this measured, I think, 1/16 inch in width,
What measured 1/16?
the forked end,
The overall wound itself measured how much?
5/8 of an inch.
Now, doctor, is this also seen in the lower right-hand neck area in photograph G40?
Yes,
Did you give this a number with respect to one or more of these photographs?
yes, I described it as injury number 2 under G40.
Now, injury number 1 of G40 is,
This larger penetrating type wound in the back of the right side of the neck, which is continues or is in conjunction, is seen in conjunction with injury number 2, which is that long superficial cut in the lower neck, which we called as injury number 2 in G37.
let's focus then on injury number 2 for a second, as seen perhaps most clearly, as you said, in G50. Are you able to determine the type of instrument that could have made that injury, that sharp force injury?
It's a stab wound from a knife.
Are you able to determine whether it's a single-edged knife or it could be either a single edge or double edge?
It could be a single edge or a double edge knife, or it could be a single edge knife with a blunt edge, which caused the forking of the wound.
Going back to that chart we did, I think the second day you were testifying regarding the correlation between types of knives and the kinds of wounds and their appearances on the surface. Do you recall which of the types?
It's number 3. Number 3, the lower portion which had the forking on the top. This wound is similar to that.
Is it, however, doctor, your opinion that approximately 6-inch long blade that you talked about that's a single-edged knife could be the source for this sharp force injury, this stab wound injury number 2?
It could be because the wound has been only described as 2 inches in depth, and it communicates with injury number 1, and so it would be the more towards the tapering part of the knife.
When you say 2 inches, that's a description given by Dr. Golden
Yes,
to represent what?
the depth of the wound.
And you said again this word communicates. What do you mean by that?
They share a common path with this wound, which is injury number 1 and in G40, I think.
If we could go perhaps to G55, does this perhaps show most clearly the relationship on the body between the injuries, injury number 2, this stab wound you've just been talking about, and what is that other sharp force injury? And I'm not sure which designation you gave it. I believe you said injury number 1 of G40.
Yes. This gives a better orientation. This wound is in front of injury number 1 of G40 and is behind the right terminal portion of injury number 1 of G37, which is one of the superficial cuts to the front of the neck, which we discussed earlier.
Did Dr. Golden address in his original protocol both injury number 2 of G40 and injury number 1?
Yes, he did.
How did he, in essence, describe them before we look at the actual paperwork?
He described them as communicating, and he described them as being possibly entrance and exit of one wound, but in the addendum he described them as that they could be separate wounds.
In the original protocol, let's put that up then and see what he said and follow up with the specific questioning. Where, doctor, on the protocol?
It's page 4, number 2, and page 5.
Let's see if we can, without impaling Mr. Lynch, if I hold this and I watch myself as Mr. Darden and Ms. Clark. What page, I'm sorry,
Page
Doctor?
4, number 2.
And you
Starts
said
here,
Item number 2, down
Yes.
at the bottom of the page.
and then it goes on to page number 5.
But before we turn the page, Mr. Lynch, if you could give me a marker to the right of my notebook there. And let me outline this. as the description starts, Doctor, is Dr. Golden referring to injury number 1?
He's actually starting with injury number 2. If you go on, I'll show you the next
All
page.
right, well, let me outline it then.
I
And
would-
as a start, so this is going to be G-40 INJ numbers 1 and number 2.
Yes.
And I'll put also G-55 and G-50, and that would be injury number 2, INJ number 2. Is that correct, Doctor?
Yes.
All right, now let's flip.
He actually starts describing it as a complex wound, and then he says the initial wound is present on the right side of the neck over the sternocleidomastoid muscle, 3 inches below the right auditory canal, measures 5/8 of an inch in length.
Let me stop you. Is that a reference then specifically to injury number 2?
Yes.
All right. And let me underline, after approximation of the edges measures 5/8 inch in length, and I'll write out under that underlying in the left border, G-40 INJ number 2. Go on, if you would, please,
And
Doctor.
then he says that the wound path is through the skin, subcutaneous tissue, without injury to a major artery or vein.
Let me stop you there. Does that have significance to you in evaluating whether either injury number 1, as you describe it, or injury number 2, as you describe it, are fatal wounds?
They are not fatal wounds.
Either one of them?
That's correct.
Go on, if you would, please.
The direction of the direction is front to back and upward for a total wound path of 2 inches, and the wound exits on the right side of the back of the neck, posterior to the right sternocleidomastoid muscle, where a 2-inch gaping long incised wound is evident on the skin.
Let me stop you at that point. I'm going to underline the part about the direction that you just read. And would it be accurate where it says, and the wound exits on the right side of the back of the neck, that Dr. Golden is referring to what you've described as injury number 1?
Yes.
So let me write to the left of this, G-40 INJ number 1. All right, continue if you would, please, Doctor.
And he says that superiorly there's a 1-inch superficial incised wound extension, and inferiorly there's a 2-inch long superficial skin extension inferiorly towards the base of the neck. He is referring to this cut here you see here. the
Doctor,
back.
you may be blocking the view of some of the jurors on that end. Can you point out again, please?
He's referring to this cut he sees here.
Okay, and that is what? This 2-inch long inside superficial skin extension?
Yes.
So this is all a matter that you would associate with the injury number 1 of G40?
Yes.
Let me, I'm sorry, do you want to
I'm
add
sorry.
something?
This 1 inch is the one going to the back, and this 2 inch is the one going here to the base of the neck, towards the base of the neck here, this one, which was actually part of the 6-inch wound injury number 2 of G37.
Is which one of G37, Doctor?
It says
If I can show you the photograph.
this is this one
The lower incised wound,
of G37.
and the extension of it as seen in G40 is?
Here he says a 2-inch extension here, going to the inferiorly towards the base of the neck, and this is the 1-inch extension to the back of the head.
Would it be accurate to say then that where he's describing inferiorly there is a 2-inch long, et cetera, that actually refers to injury number 2 of G37?
Yes, if you recall, we didn't have a measurement for it in the original protocol.
Let me box that in blue, and I'll write G-37 INJ number 2. Anything further with respect to his description?
This one, the 1-inch extension belongs to the injury number.
1?
Yes.
All right, let me mark that in. And I'll outline that. So that this is G-40 INJ number 1.
Yes.
Okay, Doctor? Is that basically the description?
Yes.
Doctor, in essence, and let me hold this out, hopefully without hitting anybody. In essence, has Dr. Golden done the same thing with respect to injuries numbers 1 and 2 of G40 that he did with respect to injuries 1 and 2 of G51? That is, he has described them as all part of one wound.
Yes, he did.
In your opinion, is he wrong?
Yes.
Why?
Because he has described this smaller 5/8 inch wound exiting in the back here. I think they are separate wounds because you need to explain this cut abrasion which is going above the wound.
And when you say the cut abrasion above the wound, you've been
Which you would
pointing...
only, which is part of the injury number 1 of G40. You can see it here better, which would only occur if the knife was penetrating there and rather coming out, because this had to be a separate entrance, and that could be a separate entrance. The injury number 2 could be a separate entrance.
In your opinion, is it a separate entrance?
Yes.
Doctor, is this a mistake on Dr. Golden's part to have formed the opinion that he expressed in the autopsy on page 5?
Yes, and I think he changed his opinion in the addendum.
Is this a mistake which you consider significant to you in forming any of your opinions on cause of death, manner of death, single-edged knife, single perpetrator, bleeding, and so forth?
No, because he has described the wound which you can make those determinations properly, the one with the 5/8 inch wound, and they did not cause death because they did not injure any major vessel. So they don't play a role on the big ticket items which we have discussed several times before.
Doctor, from your knowledge of anatomy, are you able to say that Dr. Golden has accurately described the absence of a fatal injury to a vein or an artery in that area?
Yes, yes,
Why?
because he has described accurately what happened on the left side. If you look at the internal diagrams, he described the internal jugular vein injury and said that the carotid artery was not injured, and he's also diagrammed them.
Doctor, is in Dr. Golden's description of the direction, because I'm going to have to put this down momentarily before we have an accident here. I want you to keep that in mind, because I'm going to ask you with the ruler. Thank you. Can you basically use the ruler and again myself to represent Mr. Goldman to give the orientation on the right side that Dr. Golden describes for injuries numbers 1 and 2 of G40?
Yes.
And I would like whatever side of mine that you need to be towards the jury box so they will be able to see.
You want me to demonstrate both injury number 1 and 2?
I would like you, if you can, to demonstrate the wound path, the direction as described by Dr. Golden with respect to these 2 injuries.
Yeah. He describes that this wound entered in a front to back direction.
Okay,
That is injury number 2, which is the 5/8 inch wound we discussed. And it came out here in the back as this wound here, as injury number 1. And the path in the body was 2 inches without injury to the artery or vein.
Doctor, if you could just get back into position briefly so we can describe this for the record. Your Honor, with Dr. Lakshmanan behind me and slightly to my right and holding the ruler in his right hand, he has placed what appears to be about 3 or 4 inches of the ruler extending from his right hand against my neck on the right side, with the ruler at a downward angle away from my neck, and the angle appearing to me to be approximately 45 degrees from the horizontal.
Yes.
And then, Doctor, the exit, as described by Dr. Golden,
Was here in the back here.
and you pointed for the record to the back of the right side of my neck.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Kelberg, 3 o'clock?
Whenever you're forward.
3 o'clock.
Now, you said, Doctor, that, first of all, let's ask if if Dr. Golden diagrammed either or both of what you describe as injury number 1 and 2.
Yes, he did.
Where?
In diagram 22-2,
All right, let me put up 4G again. And let's see if we can flip to,
see, this is the diagram 22-2, left lower quadrant. This is 2. And you can see this is the 5/8 inch wound here. And this is the wound we just discussed.
as injury number 1.
Yes, and this is the 2-inch extension, which is actually going down here, which, if you look at the photograph, it really is part of injury number 2 of G37.
Before you run further, and if Mr. Lynch could hand me the marker, let's see if we can mark these things as we go. Doctor, what you started with was where I am right now, correct?
Yes.
And let me circle this, and I'll run it out to a clear area, and this is G-dash
40 number.
40, INJ number 2,
That's correct, that is correct.
All right, then you pointed to an area right there.
Here.
Let me circle that area in red and to a clear area. That is G-40, INJ number 1, is that correct?
Yes.
And
And
then
then-
you pointed to a third area,
This is the 2-inch cut which goes to the base of the neck.
and this is actually, as you described it, injury number 2 of G37.
Yeah, if you look at the photograph, that's how it looks.
So I'm going to write in blue out at the side, G-37, INJ number 2.
And this is that 1-inch cut which he describes as going to the back of the neck, which you can see in G40 very well here.
And that you associate with injury number 1, is that correct?
That's correct.
There appears to be a lot of writing surrounding this area. Can you give us an interpretation of that writing?
Yes, this is sharp force, stab wound, diagonal, 3 inches below the right ear canal. That's the arrow going downwards. And then this is a 5/8 inch wound. He has described the forked wound very clearly.
All right, let me stop you here. Is this a diagram of what would be injury number 2?
Yes,
All right, let me circle that. And the 5/8 you've already described as the length of the wound,
yes,
and the 1/16 dealing with the forking end.
that's correct.
All right, let me circle that, and this is, again, G-40, INJ number 2.
Yes, actually all this belongs to the same wound.
All of,
All the handwriting there. This is external auditory canal, EAC.
all right, I'll circle it so it's all connected and make another line
Okay.
that way.
And this is the, this is 2-inch long stab wound here, and this is a 1-inch extension. This is the L and 1.
L1 means what?
Length 1 inch, and L2 means it's abbreviated length 2 inches.
And the additional writing at the bottom was,
This is the L2 2-inch extension, which I interpret as injury number 2 of G37.
so that aspect goes to
Yes,
this over here.
and these two go to injury number 1 of G40.
And let me circle that in red and have it join the line up here where we have a designation of G40 injury number 1. Doctor, has Dr. Golden accurately described what is seen in the photograph, separate and apart from an interpretation of the correlation, if any, between the injuries?
Yes, but he, as I told you, the cut abrasion on the surface of injury number 1 has not been described, which is important for me to opine that it's a separate penetration rather than an exit. That's what this cut penetration you see, this cut abrasion, you cannot get it in an exit. It has to be a separate penetration there.
How is that inflicted as a separate penetration? If you could use the ruler and use me as Mr. Goldman, demonstrate for us.
When you, as I told you, as a hypothetical, when the threatening cut took place and we, in my hypothetical explanation, and the knife was drawn here, and I said a penetration could have taken place at that point, and then the sudden movement of the victim while trying to wrestle away, the knife would come out, and then because of the movement of the knife and the body, you could get the cut abrasion, which favors that being an entrance and not an exit, because you cannot get a surface marking on the skin from an exit.
And so when we were doing a demonstration last week where you instructed me to pull away from you, it's in that pulling away and the twisting process that, in your opinion, one gets that appearing.
That'll be one way you'd get it.
What are other potential ways you can get that?
Well, before the penetration itself, there could have been movement, and you could get a cut abrasion, and then the penetration could have taken place, holding the person tighter. So there are different mechanisms, but what I wanted to drive home, the point was to see a surface injury like that would favor that this is a separate penetration and not an exit.
Your Honor, I believe the court
Yes.
wishes to take a break.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 15-minute recess at this time. Please remember all my admonitions to you. Do not discuss the case amongst yourselves, form any opinions about the case, conduct any deliberations until the matter has been submitted to you, or allow anybody to communicate with you with regard to the case. We'll stand in recess for 15 minutes. All right? Jurors, please. And Mr. Kelberg, you may continue with your direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Before you start, let me see counsel without the court reporter, please. All right, Mr. Kelberg.
Thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, I think you mentioned that Dr. Golden addresses in his addendum this relationship between injuries numbers 1 and 2 of G40. Is that correct?
Yes.
And again, let's try another easel for a change in perspective. Could you step down and tell us where in the addendum Dr. Golden addresses those two particular injuries?
Page 3, number 6. Starts the last paragraph here. Page 4, item 2, lines 1 and 2. And page 5, paragraph 1, amended as originally stated. It starts here.
All right, now where you're pointing, Doctor, under subpart 6 of page 3, And Dr. Golden starts, there is a sharp force wound on the right side of the neck, 3 inches directly below the external auditory canal. Is that injury number 1 or injury number 2 as we look at it?
That's injury number 2.
If Mr. Lynch could hand me the markers again, I think they may be. Thanks. All right, and it goes down how far in its description of what is injury number 2?
Up to the last line, I mean, the line previous to the last line of the page.
And for that, for the record, Your Honor, I'm going to outline in red that box of information on the right-hand side. I'll write G-40 INJ number 2.
Right.
And then this paragraph continues, Doctor, in what fashion?
Page 4, number 7 and 8.
Now, before we flip the page, it has a sentence, this wound connects, and let me underline the word connects, with a sharp force wound on the right, and I'll underline that as well. Is this sharp force wound on the right what is described as injury number 1?
Yes.
So before we turn the page, I'll write a little arrow, G-40 INJ number 1. And now let me continue by flipping the page.
Sorry. And it goes on to say that right side of the neck, 2 inches posterior, and it says that the wound is 2 inches in length. This is all referring to injury number 1 of G40. And it says that the posterior portion presents an incised wound, 1 inch in length, which is that extension we discussed, and the anterior end is rounded. And then he describes that it intersects with the transversely oriented incised wound of the front of the neck, which is injury number 2 of G37. Injury number 2 of G37.
All right, let me outline that just briefly in red on page 4 of the protocol 0G, and I'll write G-37 INJ number 2. Is that correct, Doctor?
Yes.
All right, then Dr. Golden continues to describe.
There's fresh hemorrhage and bruising, and no major artery vein is severed or injured.
Now, Doctor, does paragraph number 8, or item 8 of this same page also refer to injuries 1 and 2?
Yes, and also page 5, it says paragraph 2, delete in the original protocol.
And is that a procedural thing? Perhaps Mr. Lynch can put the protocol back up on the other easel and flip to page 5.
Yes. It refers to this.
I'm sorry, Doctor, you're pointing to,
That is fresh hemorrhage.
and that's going to be deleted pursuant to that entry that you just outlined in the addendum?
Yes.
And then this opinion, is this the opinion that is being amended in essence?
Yes, it's been amended in as item 8 on page 4 of the addendum.
All right, let me outline these 2 entries on page 5 of the protocol. And at the side right, amended by addendum. Page 4,
Yes,
and that's going to be items,
7 and 8.
I'll write items 7 and 8. Doctor, in your opinion, does the description provided in the addendum on pages 3 and 4 accurately describe those 2 injuries, injuries 1 and 2 of G40?
Yes.
And let me then write by boxing in blue on page 4 that this is G-40 and this is INJ number 1. Is that correct, Doctor?
Yes.
And then let me outline 7 and 8. And at the side I'll write G-40 INJ number 1 and number 2. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And I'll just write a little red line, make a red line to separate it from the entry below that. Doctor, is that opinion expressed in item number 8 in the addendum accurate in your judgment as to those two injuries, injuries 1 and 2?
Yes.
Is there anything further with respect to the protocol or the addendum concerning injuries 1 and 2?
No.
Doctor, is a single-edged, approximately 6-inch long knife consistent with inflicting both of those injuries?
Yes.
While we have the charts up, there was one additional chart I did not ask you about. This is on board 7G, Your Honor.
7G, thank you.
And the previous, the addendum, I think, has been marked as 10G, excuse me, that we were looking at. Doctor, there's a Form 24 page that is the first page of this particular board. And there, in the upper left-hand quadrant, there appears to be an entry made. What does this refer to?
This refers to the internal injuries which Dr. Golden saw. This is sharp force injury neck. He says there's transection of the left internal jugular vein and the left common carotid artery being intact. LCCA stands for that. And he says the right side is within normal limits, and negative also in the front. There's no injury to the larynx.
The injury that he is describing in the upper left quadrant, is that injury number 1 of G37?
Yes.
I'm sorry, excuse me, injury number 3
I'm
of
sorry.
G37?
Sorry, injury number 3 of G37.
And injury number 1 of G51?
Yes.
Let me outline all of that. And I'll write G-37, INJ number 3, and G-51, INJ number 1. Now, doctor, what does the rest of this diagram refer to within normal limits, negative, and so forth?
Basically, there's no injury to the larynx like we saw on Ms. Brown-Simpson.
Does that have some bearing on the depth of that particular penetration?
That would have one meaning to that, and also it shows that there's no injury to those structures.
Doctor, would it be accurate to say that that wound that you described as the last sharp force injury inflicted on Nicole Brown-Simpson, seen, I believe, in B13, 16, and 18, was a deeper wound than the wound that you described as a fatal wound, number 3 of G37 to Mr. Goldman's neck?
It's difficult to make that kind of judgment because in Ms. Brown-Simpson, the knife went across the neck up to the spine, and there's no specific depth given, whereas for the wound on the left side of the neck of Mr. Goldman, it's at least a 4-inch track because it communicates with the left, behind the left ear, so it's difficult to make that kind of conclusion.
Is there anything else about this diagram that you wish to talk about?
No, it just emphasizes the internal injury on the left side and no vascular injury on the right side.
And that injury, though, is a fatal one in your judgment?
The left internal jugular vein injury, yes.
Doctor, anything further about injuries 1 and 2 we need to discuss?
No.
We'll just leave the protocol up and ask you if we could to go back now to photograph G40 and talk about, if you have not already, additional wounds or injuries you see in that photograph.
We have a sharp force injury to the back of the right side of the head. We have a sharp force injury to the behind the right ear here. We have another sharp force injury just near the back of the right earlobe. And then there's a abrasion in the area of the skin between injury number 1 of G40 and the ear, which you can see here. And G50 shows the injuries to the ear very much better. It's a close-up photograph of the 2 sharp force injury behind the right ear. And G55 shows the same sharp force injury to the back of the right side of the head. Doesn't show the cuts behind the ear because it's ear being seen on the side, but does show the abrasion in the skin between the injury number 1 of G40 and the ear.
Doctor, let's see if we can talk about these individually. Have you numbered them again with respect to these photographs in some arbitrary fashion?
Yes, I labeled this sharp force injury to the back side of the right side of the head as injury number 3.
All right, let's just stay with that. What is that sharp force injury?
It's caused by a knife. It's 5/8 inch long, and it is situated to the right side of the back of the head.
You'll keep your voice up, please, doctor. In your opinion, is this caused by a knife?
Yes,
What kind of knife, if you are able to offer an opinion?
it's could be a single edge or a double edge
Why are you unable to tell?
because it's an incise type wound, and you cannot tell the difference.
Is it still consistent with your 6-inch approximately long single-edge knife blade?
The tapering tip, yes.
Now, doctor, in your opinion, was that sharp force injury received before death?
Yes,
How are you able to tell?
the appearance, as I've discussed earlier, and the color.
Are you able to tell the relative positions of Mr. Goldman and the perpetrator at the time that sharp force injury was inflicted?
No.
Why not?
Well, it could be inflicted if Mr. Goldman was ducking, if the perpetrator was in the front. It could be if the perpetrator was in the back and cut Mr. Goldman in the back during the initial other wounds, which are the back of the neck.
Doctor, again, using the ruler and myself to represent Mr. Goldman, can you demonstrate these alternatives you've just described in general way?
Yes,
You want to put down your pointer and your paper? Let's see if Mr. Lynch can put those on the table.
if it was in the front of the back, it could be a cut like this.
Now, are you talking about in your scenario with the control hold and the 2 superficial incised wounds at about that time?
Yes, and this cut could have occurred at the same time. This cut occurred in the back of the ear. They are about the same level
Which cut, which ear?
behind the right ear.
And you pointed to photo G40, is that correct?
Yes.
And how could that cut have been inflicted with the perpetrator behind Mr. Goldman and this injury number 3 to the head?
They could be separate cuts, but they could have been in the same force the same motion which occurred.
How is that done with the same motion?
But there's been, as I told you, all these sharp force injuries are due to a dynamic process. You have movement of the head and movement of the blade. And when the knife is in contact with the head moves, you can also strike the right ear at the same time because the wound is right here in the back.
Would you turn around and show the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where that, and you're talking about this injury number 3 in photo G40 is where you're going to be pointing in a moment?
Yes, it's right here, in this region.
Your Honor, for the record, the witness has pointed to an area that is slightly above the top of his right ear and to the left of that approximately 2 inches?
Yes.
Doctor, is that accurate?
Fairly.
How fairly is fairly?
Well, I'm just pointing to my back of my head, so the picture is there and it's quite
It's self-explanatory.
self-explanatory.
Thank you.
And then there's another cut here. So this could have been occurred when the perpetrator was in the back, when the perpetrator was in the back of Mr. Goldman. And the other way it could have happened is if the perpetrator was in the front and wielding a knife, the head was ducked and trying to avoid the knife cut, the back of the head could have been cut too.
Can you demonstrate, you tell me what to do to represent Mr. Goldman and you be the perpetrator, how that can be inflicted?
If I'm wielding a knife like this and coming against you and you bend your neck and bend your head downwards, you can cut the head like this, right in the back.
Your Honor, for the record, facing me, Dr. Lakshmanan with the ruler in his right hand took several side-to-side motions as he was talking about wielding the knife. I ducked my head in a forward and downward direction. Dr. Lakshmanan with his right hand holding the ruler then came, I believe, with a somewhat overhead motion in the direction of the top of my head, and I felt some grazing of the ruler over the top of my head.
Yes.
Bottom line is you cannot really tell with definite certainty which kind of movements cause these type of wounds, but these are some possibilities which one could opine.
Doctor, would it be accurate to say that these alternatives that you've suggested are consistent with the physical findings that you can see from the photographs and the autopsy materials?
Yes.
Your Honor, I believe we've lost some aspect of the microphone that goes here, so.
I think it's just the wind cover.
Doctor, do you need your pointer back?
Yeah, my pointer's here.
Now, doctor, again, not a fatal stab wound?
No,
Is this also shown in another photograph that gives a closer perspective of that?
I think I don't,
If I may, just a moment.
I don't think we have it.
Anything further about that particular sharp force injury?
No,
By the way, is this process of exposing the injury part of the post-mortem shaving that you described earlier?
yes,
Doctor, is this injury, this sharp force injury number 3, addressed in Dr. Golden's original protocol?
yes, he has.
Is it diagrammed anywhere?
Yes, it has been.
Is it addressed anywhere in the addendum?
No,
Need it be?
no,
Anything further about that injury?
nothing.
Do you have an injury number 4 of G40?
No, I only described 3 injuries under G40, and actually I described the injuries in the behind the ear in G50, actually under G50.
All right, the injuries behind the ears are more closely shown in photograph G50.
Yes.
Tell us about those. If you can start with some numerical designation and take us through your description.
The larger cut in the back of the right ear is injury number 1 in G50. It's about 3/4 of an inch in length, and the smaller wound in the right earlobe is 1/4 inch in length, and the ear has been the photograph has been taken of the right ear in a close-up manner so the injuries can be perceived better.
The ear has been moved in some manipulation to expose this.
Yes.
Doctor, using my right ear, can you demonstrate what is being done to expose that area?
Like this, so that you can see the cut better behind the right ear and the earlobe. That's what's been being done right here.
For the record, Your Honor, the doctor with his right hand has pulled the large part of my right ear in a forward direction. Now, doctor, what kind of injury is injury number 1?
It's a sharp force injury by a knife.
Are you able to determine from its appearance whether it is a single-edged knife or could be also from a double-edged knife?
I cannot tell which one.
For the same reasons?
Yes,
But still consistent with the hypothesized single-edged, 6-inch long, approximately knife blade?
yes, from the tapering tip.
Is this an ante-mortem injury?
Yes,
How are you able to tell?
from the appearance and the coloration.
Does it play any significant role in any of the big-ticket issues?
No,
Anything further on that one?
no,
Is it addressed by Dr. Golden in the protocol?
no,
Described by him anywhere?
not diagrammed.
And addressed anywhere in the addendum?
Yes,
How about the next injury?
that's a smaller cut behind the right earlobe, and that's 1/4 inch in length.
Is that also due to a knife?
Yes,
Would your answers be the same about single edge, double edge, for that injury?
I can't tell.
For the same reasons?
Yes,
Is that also an injury received before death?
yes,
And is that a separate injury from injury number 1?
yes,
Does it play any significant role on any of the big ticket issues?
no,
Is it addressed by Dr. Golden in the protocol?
no,
Diagrammed by him?
no,
Addressed by him in the addendum?
yes,
Would those be considered mistakes not to have described and diagrammed it?
yes,
They play any significant role in your judgment on these big ticket issues?
no,
For the same reasons?
yes.
Any other injuries besides those two in G50?
No,
Now, doctor, you mentioned, I think, some other injuries in both 40 and 55, at least showing them to some degree. And I want to invite your attention, is there an injury in the area of the left, I'm sorry, of the right lower ear area?
Yes.
And does that have possible significance with respect to either or both injuries 1 and 2 as shown in photo G50, the ear injuries?
It could have significance to the injury behind the right ear lobe, which is injury number 2 of G50. What we have here in the side of the head is a penetrating injury, which went to the temporal bone, which is the bone underlying this area of the face.
Doctor, if you could turn so everybody on the jury can see that.
This injury is right here in front of the right ear, in the earlobe area.
For the-
And
I'm sorry, for the record, Your Honor, the doctor was pointing to an area above the bottom of his ear, about a third of the way up towards the top of the ear, and just adjacent to the where the ear joins the face.
Yes.
this injury goes for an inch deep into up to the bone.
How far, doctor? I'm sorry.
About an inch deep, up to the temporal bone, and stops there. So this injury number 2 behind the right earlobe, which is seen in G50, could be related to this wound, but I cannot exclude them from photograph as not being separate wounds.
What would you be able to do as the autopsy surgeon, if anything, which would have allowed you to determine whether in fact there is a relationship between this penetration to the temporal bone area and this injury number 2 to the right ear?
You would see it communicate, because what you're seeing is because the wound goes through the earlobe like this,
Could you turn it?
and since this is a reflected portion of skin, you will see a cut on the inside because of the same penetration. So it could be related, but I can't tell from the photographs.
Does Dr. Golden describe that temporal bone penetration in his autopsy protocol?
Yes, he does.
Does he describe it in a way which allows you to correlate, if there is a correlation to be made, that sharp force injury with this injury number 2?
No, his description basically gives the course in the body. I'm just giving an opinion based on the photographs, the location, and my experience with such injuries.
Would it be accurate to say that Dr. Golden has not provided you with sufficient information to form an opinion as to whether a correlation exists between those two?
That is correct.
Does Dr. Golden address this injury, and have you given it a number, and if so,
Yes,
which photograph?
It'll be in G55. I gave it a number. So which one?
Photograph G55, Doctor?
Yes. Can't find the number I gave it. But it's described in the protocol. I can't find a number for it, but it's in
Could I just borrow your paperwork for one moment? And I'm sorry, Your Honor, may I have a moment?
You may. So, Doctor, what you've just been talking about is this penetrating sharp force injury to the temporal bone is described as injury number 6 of G55?
Yes,
All right. And that sharp force injury, again, can't tell between single edge, double edge?
that's correct.
Same reasons?
Yes,
Antemortem?
it's antemortem.
Same reasons?
Yes,
Non-fatal?
that is correct.
Same reasons?
Yes,
And I'm sorry, was this diagram by Dr. Golden?
yes,
Is it addressed in the addendum at all?
no,
Doctor, Any other injuries on G50?
No.
And with respect to G55, other than the injuries to the face, are there other injuries that you have not discussed at this point that are apparent in that photograph?
This faint abrasion, which is seen both in G40 and in G55.
Would you point it out again? I'm sorry. Your Honor, the doctor on photograph G55 is pointing to an area that appears to be midway between the bottom of the right ear and the top of what has been marked as that injury number 1, sharp force injury as seen in G40.
Yes.
What is that, doctor?
It's just a faint abrasion which is seen between the injury number 1 of G40 and the right ear. And there's no other sharp force injury in the skin in this area, but there's a sharp force injury which was described in the report.
Before we get to that, how are you able to determine that that is an abrasion rather than a sharp force injury?
By the same examination I did with the other injuries, use a magnifying glass and you can see whether there's a split in the skin or not, and there's no split, it's only a scrape in the skin.
Do you have an opinion as to what source or sources could be responsible for that?
That's a non-specific blunt force injury, and it could be from the plant material which we have discussed before, which you see in the crime scene area, and could be one of those cut branches.
Does it have any significance to you on any of the big ticket issues?
No,
Is this addressed by Dr. Golden in the protocol?
no,
Is it diagrammed by him?
no,
Is it addressed in the addendum?
no.
Does Dr. Golden have some indication in the form of a diagram or something in the protocol or both for that area describing something that you do not see in these photographs, in particular G40 and G55?
He has described a cut there which is 3/4 of an inch long behind the right ear, parallel to the sternomastoid muscle, which is not seen in the photographs.
While we've got the photos up, which diagram does Dr. Golden use to show that particular?
I think it's 22-1 or 2, I think.
This is board 4G.
Yeah. It's on 22-1.
All right, and Doctor, the location where Dr. Golden has made that, what appears to be a vertical line, you see that?
Yes,
Is that the same location, in general terms, anatomically, as the location where you see what you described as an abrasion?
more or less the same anatomical area.
Is it diagrammed, though, in the positional aspect, the same as the abrasion appears in the photographs?
Yes,
And the measurement, did you try and measure from the life-size photo that faint abrasion?
yes, I did. I got it as a 1 1/8 inch in length,
And Dr. Golden describes the superficial cut as how long?
3/4 of an inch.
In your opinion, doctor, can the process of photographic measurement account for the difference between your measurement and that of Dr. Golden?
To some extent it can, but the injury you see is an abrasion and not a cut.
In your opinion, is it a mistake for Dr. Golden to have concluded, if he is looking at what you describe as this abrasion, to describe it as a cut?
Yes.
Is it of any significance on any of the big ticket questions?
No.
Your Honor, let me, if I could for the record, circle in red that area, including the written entry on Form 22-1, and I'll write G dash,
It's
I'm
injury
sorry,
number, it's injury number 7,
of,
G55.
let me write G55, INJ 7, but I'll write cut in quotes rather than abrasion. Any other diagram of that particular injury by Dr. Golden?
No.
And does he include a description of this in the protocol?
Yes, he does.
Where, doctor?
It's on page, it's on the page 4 or 5, I think, of the main protocol.
4 or 5 of the main protocol?
Yes.
Okay, let's see if we can find it.
Actually, it's page 6. Page 6. Number 3.
I'm going to box that on page 6 of the protocol. I'll write G-55, and this is ING number 6.
Yes. Number 7, actually, because we discovered number 7. Number 7 is a faint abrasion, and so it would correspond, if at all, to injury number 7.
I'm sorry, injury number 7, and I'll write cut in quotation marks rather than abrasion. Is that accurate?
That would be a correct statement.
Let me just make sure, Doctor, that we have, yes, we have it correctly identified in Form 22. Any significance to this description in your judgment in evaluating any of the big ticket issues?
No.
But a mistake nonetheless?
Yes.
Anything further about this one?
Nothing further.
All right, if we could put the photos back up then. Now, Doctor, other than the faint abrasion, have we covered G40? I'm sorry, with the faint abrasion, have we covered all the injuries in G40?
Yes, we have.
And in fact, injuries 1 and 2 that you've identified from G50 are seen to some extent in photo G40. Is that accurate?
Yes,
But the ear is in the normal position in G40. Is that correct?
that is correct.
All right. Anything further with respect to photograph G50 as to any finding or injury?
No, except that the facial injuries, some of them are seen here, which we're going to discuss later.
Okay. Let me just finish then with, you described these as injuries 1 and 2 of G50. Is that correct?
Yes,
And you indicated they were not addressed in the original protocol
yes,
or diagrammed. Is that correct?
yes,
But they are addressed in the addendum?
yes. And the addendum page number is page 4, number 11 and 12.
And
Page 4, number 11 and 12.
on board, I'm sorry, Mr. Lynch, 10G, I believe. Is this injury number 1 and 12 injury number 2?
Yes,
Let me outline those. INJ number 1, and that's G-50,
yes,
and G-50, INJ number 2. Doctor, do each of these paragraphs accurately describe, in your opinion, the nature of each of those 2 injuries of photograph G50?
yes,
Is there anything further to discuss regarding the addendum and those 2 injuries?
no,
Doctor, before we get to the facial injuries, I'm